Dried stalks are separated, crushed, and submerged in a plant-based, no-added formaldehyde resin. Kiln circulates air to cure the resin to the stalks. The hemp is then pressed into blocks and baked in the oven. Blocks are then carefully cut to order. The zero waste system uses leftover product to power the on-site bioburner. At the milling factory, Hempwood organic flooring comes together. Each piece is then boxed by hand and shipped to customers around the world. See how Hempwood can improve your healthy living space. Visit hempwood.com today.
Medical hemp done right, we've come so far. From American soil to healing hands, the gold standard across this land. There's a new day dawning on the farm, where the hemp grows tall and the work is hard. Not just any crop, but a healing kind, with standards set and peace of mind. Lab tested, labeled, safe and true. Medical grade is what we do. From the seed to the shelf, we're leading the way. And how we're raising the bar. Medical hemp done right, we've come so far. From American soil to healing hands, the gold standard across this land. Emma, that's the way it's done. Quality you can trust for everyone. No more guessing what's inside that bottle. No more Wild West, we're full throttle. On a mission for the truth and care. Medical grade hemp everywhere. For the farmers who believe in more. For the families knocking on hope's door. We're building something real, something right. Emma shining bright. Medical hemp done right, we've come so far. From American soil to healing hands, the gold standard across this land. Emma, that's the way it's done. Quality you can trust for everyone. Hills to the golden plains, we're changing the game, breaking the chains. Science and soul, hand in hand, medical grade across the land. Yeah, how we're raising the bar. Medical hemp done right, we've come so far. From American soil to healing hands, the gold standard across this land. Emma, that's the way it's done. Quality you can trust for everyone. That's the way it's done.
loyal listener and for praying. Montgomery Circuit Court lacked authority to intervene. In a unanimous decision, the appeals court dismissed multiple appeals and granted a writ of mandamus sought by the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, directing the circuit court to dismiss a lawsuit brought by several unsuccessful license applicants, including Gemstone Alabama LLC. The court held that the trial court lacked subject matter jurisdiction to issue an injunction blocking the commission's December 2023 licensing decisions, rendering the lower court's April 2025 order void. Judges said challenges to the licensing process were premature because the commission has not yet issued final licenses and remains in the investigative hearing phase required under state law. The AMCC meets tomorrow for their regular monthly meeting at 1 p.m. I think if you go to the Alabama Cannabis Coalition Facebook page, they have a Zoom link there that you can actually watch the meeting from wherever you are, and that is tomorrow at 1 p.m. So go check that out. In hemp news, it has now been more than 40 days since HB 445 went into full effect. And as of this broadcast, only one license for retailers has been issued in the Northport area. I think that's around Tuscaloosa. But the city of Mobile has come up with some help for shops applying within the city limits. The Mobile City Council will vote tomorrow, February the 10th, on a new rule for stores that sell consumable hemp products. The rule sets up a 90-day transition period for certain stores to get licensed and approved. Stores that were selling hemp products before January 2026 now need to follow state law and get approval from the city. Only retailers with a license from the Alabama Alcoholic Beverage Control Board can sell consumable hemp products. The stores also need local approval from the city where they are located. This has been a huge issue. This is my personal commentary in the middle. This has been one of the biggest delay tactics, stalling issues, one of the biggest hurdles for all of these businesses. I hear about it almost every single day. So what the 90-day period does is allow the city to be flexible on a case-by-case basis, but the stores must submit a full ABC license application during the 90 days, keep proof of that application on site at all times, stay in compliance with all other city rules. The city can end this flexibility if a license is denied, a store does not pursue licensure, lost my place, or there are safety and compliance problems. The council will review each store's location before approving it for the ABC license. They may consider zoning and land use, the surrounding neighborhood, past code violations, safety, traffic, or operational concerns, and other site-specific factors. The guidelines are not a guarantee of approval. And if this passes tomorrow, if they approve of this ordinance, the city will issue the local approval letter needed for the ABC license. This rule does not create a city license, nor does it change the ABC board's authority. It will be effective immediately. So if they do decide to adopt this rule, it goes into effect right away, which I'm assuming would be tomorrow. I know that our friends at Healthy Harvest and other places, the few other places in Mobile, Cloud9, I know Cordell Harris, Ocean Jones, these guys are really excited because they are all neck deep in this application process. But part of the issue is that this approval from the city is actually part of the paperwork needed for the pre-application. And so they still have to sit down with the ABC board once all that's complete. So we hope to see more people getting licensed and more people able to purchase products locally all over the state. So as soon as we have more information about that, I will let you guys know. Just a note that, as soon as these people are able to sell to you, please go and shop local and support these businesses. Like I said, it's been 40 days since the last phase of HB 445 going to effect has happened, and they have had to take all their hemp products off the shelf. And, just a lot of businesses like CannaBama was, all we had was hemp products. So you can imagine the financial devastation there while they've had to wait on this process. And even with this sort of leniency issue in the city of Mobile, that only applies to the city of Mobile, not the county or any of the other communities around the state, even within Mobile County. So again, we're praying for all of our hemp industry folks that are hanging on, and especially pray for the ones like me who had to let go and let God. So what I alluded to in the beginning is that we've had a little bit of a change. Last week, we had to cancel at the last minute because my producer, my lovely son next to me, had flu A and burnt up with fever. And my other producer was dealing with jury duty. And so we had to cancel. And this week, our guest called me a few hours ago, and he is sick and says that he's having problems with his throat and it wouldn't be good. So, but yes, our guest, Greg Wilson, the founder of Hempwood, fell sick today, had to cancel at the last minute. It seems like everybody's sick with something. Isaiah's better, but now my daughter has a cold. So everybody is sick. But we wish Greg a speedy recovery and offer him our prayers. And he will join us at a later date. I believe he has an expo next Monday, but we are getting him back on the calendar. Hempwood is an interview that I've wanted to do for a long, long time. So I called up my buddy Martin. Want to welcome him back to the show. I called up my friend Martin, and I said, "Hey, we got to do something about this show." So he's here to help me talk about Hempwood, but also other industrial applications for the hemp plant. Martin is the president of the Kentucky Hemp Farmers Association and founder of the American Medical Hemp Association. He has taught me so much about how to write legislation and understand how to fight this fight well, because just because we're fighting doesn't mean we're fighting well. And Martin has taught me so much about how all of these things work. Most of the people in this industry, farmers, retailers, we're just people, parents, wanting to do something great with our lives and run a business. None of us intended to be involved in legislation and politics. And so having someone like Martin in your corner, man, it's night and day for me. So welcome to the show, Martin.
Thanks, Jennifer. I want to say to your nephew, Drake, let's pray for Greg that his voice gets, he said something about his throat wasn't feeling well, and that's miserable. So Drake, let's get some prayer for Drake. I hear Drake's a prayer. Am I right?
Drake, man, if I need somebody to pray for me, it is my nephew Drake and his mama. So yes, sir. If you need prayer, you let me know and I'll pass it on to Drake.
That's what I was thinking. My daddy's like that too. I mean, he prays for me every day, all day. And so, Drake, we're going to pray for Greg and get that situation taken care of. But Jennifer, yeah, I'm always here to answer the call whatever we need to talk about. But industrial hemp, the industrial side of it, I'm excited. That's why I was excited about this show, because I figured Greg was really going to start pouring on to what makes sense for them in industrial. And, talking about cannabinoids don't make any sense to them, for
exactly.
their industry and their products and how they go about it. So, and thank you for, the shout out on, me and you talk about in shows previous to this about individual sovereignty and the power of what it takes to really put yourself in a position to be a part of the process. Right. And sometimes it's scary. Ooh, boogly, boogly. Yep. But if you really, what Jennifer was saying there in that monologue, with, introducing me, is that it's really not that complicated. We're all just people. We're all just people. And if we can approach it in a way that allows us to participate where we feel satisfied we've been heard. Right. And that's what she's alluding to when she talks about I've spent some time with her just talking about how the sausage, but people would say the sausage is made.
Yep.
So thank you for that shout out. I've really enjoyed myself exercise. I went in the military and took the oath. So
Yeah.
that oath means something to me. So to be able to exercise that along with other oath takers in the legislatures across the country. I guess there's no better position to be in.
We got to go to break. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Martin. You know how this works. Got to go to break. We'll be right back. We're going to get into some innovation and some legislation. Stay with us.
Are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready for something bigger? Then we are looking for you. The big-hearted, the bold, the messy and the gutsy. The teachers, the growers, the builders, the skilled, the sharers, the change makers. We need you. We are the Peace Corps. In more than 60 countries, we go all in and all out. We are volunteers, partners, communities, working together, living together, bringing our experience, passion, and joy to building a better world together. From tackling climate change in Mexico to keeping kids healthy in Kenya, from sustainable farming in the Philippines to education in Kosovo. We learn more, give more, share freely, and serve boldly. Are you ready to tackle the tough stuff, to go the distance to make a difference? Then we have a place where you belong. Join us at peacecorps.gov.
If you're a sportsman and love the great outdoors, you know how important it is to utilize the tips and tricks that really good fishermen and hunters know. That's why sportsman and writer, editor, and photographer John Felsher is sharing his knowledge gathered from a lifetime of learning what works and what doesn't. Listen for the Outdoor Tips Daily on FM Talk 106.5. You may become more successful fishing and hunting. Outdoor Tips with John Felsher on FM Talk 106.5.
Welcome back to Sweet Home CannaBama. Now with all the information you want about cannabis, here's your host, Jennifer Boozer.
Welcome back, everybody. Tonight, Martin Smith has so graciously jumped in place of our guest, who was supposed to be Greg Wilson, the founder of Hempwood. So, Martin, let's get into this. I want to read the bio for Greg because, I've told everybody, I've waited a long time to talk to him on the show. And if it's the last thing I do, I will get him back on. But what he has managed to do, which is unlike anything else anyone else is doing, it's just so incredible to me. Greg Wilson is the founder and driving force behind Hempwood, a Kentucky-based company that's redefining sustainable building materials. With a background in engineered wood and a passion for eco-friendly innovation, Greg developed a way to turn American-grown hemp into a durable hardwood alternative, stronger than oak, and grown in just a fraction of the time. From his facility in Murray, Kentucky, he's helping reshape the future of construction and manufacturing while supporting local farmers and bringing green jobs to rural communities. Greg Wilson is proving that sustainability and American craftsmanship can go hand in hand. Martin, how proud is Kentucky to have a company like Hempwood? I mean, it's so unique, and someone with such an innovative mind. He was really, you have to admit he was a little ahead of his time.
A little. He is. Listen, I would say he's right on time.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you right now, there couldn't be a better time in history. I mean, before we got into a place where there was, back in the day, there was plenty of timber. Well, we've cut a lot of timber out of this, out of the ecosystem. And he has said, hold on, this is the time for, everybody has a purpose in this industry.
Absolutely.
To innovate, like to take this is what I love about Greg. All right. If you ever meet him, you'll see why I'm saying this. When he tells you what he's been through to get to a place where he's at, and that he took the time, the passion, how do I say it? Like all of the energy that it takes to make
effort. Yeah.
When there's no market for it yet. You know what I mean? There's not like everybody's knocking down your door saying,
right. Hey, we need someone to do this. Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, it's still.
Me and you champion for opioid addiction, for PTSD, for chronic pain, for, just homeostatic stasis balance in the human condition. We do that, and that is valor. But to do it for industrial hemp and to be in that innovative space, to be able to say, look, nobody else is looking at this space. Here am I, and we're going to do it. And man, he's done it. And I'm so proud of Greg. I'm telling you. I'm like you. I was waiting for this interview because I think the world is ready to hear. I think about Craig Lee. Craig Lee was the very first person I ever ran into about hemp, and notorious because him and Woody Harrelson and
Joe Hickey,
Blue Eyes. You see me pointing my eyes. If you know Joe Hickey, he's got the bluest eyes you ever laid seriously, it's like looking into the ocean.
Wow.
And yeah, he's a cool dude, and it's real cool. I've been in the presence of both of these men. I can tell you stories, and Craig Lee, I'm not gonna. But it reminds me of the time when I first ran into Craig Lee, and he said, Martin, because I was talking about cannabis and using it for all its industrial purposes. And I'm disappointed, but Craig grabs me by the arm. Here I am with cannabis stocks in my hand, got the intention to go in and talk and whatever. And Craig Lee grabs me by the arm and brings me into a side room. This is during a committee hearing. And I thought I was going to get up and be able to say, hey, this is cannabis. This is what it does.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And Craig Lee pulls me off in the corner. He says, Martin, they don't want to hear anything you got to say about industrial purposes for this crop. He said, they just want to talk about all this medical stuff. And, and he's talking about CBD and THC, and they didn't know nothing about that. They just wanted to put it in the ground and pull it out, and go make something,
Right.
And so I think about that whenever I think about Greg, the next generation of innovation. The story behind Craig Lee and those guys is they planted 4 seeds and called the sheriff. Hey,
yes,
y'all come with us. We done planted.
Right. Joe told that story last year. He told us that story about him and Woody Harrelson and all the guys that planted, 4 seeds or 4 plants and called the sheriff on themselves.
Yeah, misdemeanor because they had to bring attention to this thing. Woody Harrelson gets arrested for planting industrial.
Right. Yes, you killed 2 birds with one stone because Woody can afford bail no matter what. And Woody's name will make sure that it's in the press all over the world.
Kentucky, the place of all places, right?
Right.
Because Craig Lee, oh my gosh, if you haven't seen there is a documentary on that whole endeavor with Woody and all that, and I'll figure it out what it is on the break and come back with you with it. But there is a documentary with Craig Lee and telling all that story. And I'm telling you what, when you listen to Craig Lee, and he's a Vietnam veteran. And when you hear him talking about how could this be, I'm not trying to criminalize it. Oh my goodness. It is. I'm telling you right now, it's kick the door in the fire, go get to save the baby out of the top room. Right. He couldn't imagine that his government would prevent him from doing something that isn't illegal, in his mind.
Right.
Didn't have any. So industrial hemp and that side of it, as you can tell, the stories and everything fire me up for what it can be. And Greg Wilson is one of those people at Hempwood.
Yeah. Well, and in case you don't know Hempwood, we played a little video at the beginning of the stream, and I would encourage you to follow them on social media. Go to their brand new website that looks amazing. But one of the things they're most known for is Hempwood flooring, which I thought was fascinating the first time I heard of this. And so I am, tappity tap going to look, and then I see how beautiful it is. And then I'm reading it's stronger than oak. I mean, where's the downside here, fellas? And it's carbon negative. And then I got to tell Greg on the phone about visiting Volunteer Botanicals in Nashville, outside of Nashville. My son Isaiah and I went up there for an expo, and we traveled about 45 minutes away. I think it's Victoria, Tennessee. And they had just had a Hempwood conference table delivered. I mean, barely out of the plastic. It wasn't even in the correct room yet. And I got to see that. Me and Isaiah got to touch it, sit down at it. It was so beautiful. Now I see they've got hinge doors, pocket doors, all sorts of things. I know my friend John Grady in his Slap Happy Hemporium in Rosebud, Missouri, had his whole countertop is made from hempwood, and they embossed his logo in it. I'm just such a geek for hempwood. It's so cool because there's not a lot of, I know about fiber. I know about plastic. I know about all these other things, but to see a company that's like neck deep in it and really doing it, it's so exciting and it's so validating because when I got into this, I learned all about it. So I wasn't just learning about CBD and THC and all of that. I was learning about all the industrial applications and teaching it so that it would make people see this plant in a different way. Right. And so I have always been fascinated.
Like that. You know what I mean? When you can put your bare feet on and you don't get stoned, that probably changes all that reefer madness.
Well, I own hemp shoes. I own hemp t-shirts. My husband is sitting 5 feet away from me right now wearing a CannaBama ball cap that's made out of hemp. Like I am not just I'm not a poser. I am 10 toes down all the way in for this plant, and it's permeated every area of my life. And yeah, so this was a fangirl day when he told me, "Oh, I can't hardly talk. I feel so bad." I was like, dude, you just deflated my balloon. And I feel bad for him, but I was like, man, I was looking so forward to this because there's no part of my brain that can conceive of how you go from there's a plant in a field to this beautiful flooring and table that is not me.
You got to go to the factory and see all the agricultural products that's around the factory to make this happen. And then when you go in and see the process and you're looking at, oh my God, I can see how they're forming this and compressing it and
they waste nothing. They don't waste any part of the plant. It all goes to some kind of use. And I think that that's incredible, and we can talk about, green jobs and energy conservation and environmental factors and all the things. And we will when Greg is here. And I'm so excited for him to kind of break it down for us. But, I wanted to start this show talking specifically about him, even in his absence, because what he's doing is so important. So important. I've interviewed.
Think about it. We talk about the executive order that Trump did with the grandmothers, but think about this. Greg's got how many grandbabies are crawling around on hemp floor that he's manufactured and not, in the whole paradigm of what hemp is laying there with grandbabies and babies and toys and dogs laying on it and grandma's carpet and all of that changing all the reefer madness stuff. And that's what I'm so excited about the industrial aspect of it and what Greg does, because it just breaks down. You cannot think of it the same way after you've seen Greg's product.
Right. When we come back from the break, more with Martin Smith. Stay with us.
FM Talk 106.5, the Gulf Coast Weather Authority, and Dr. Bill Williams.
The Gulf Coast can expect areas of fog tonight. Low temperatures will be in the lower 50s at daybreak. For Tuesday, morning fog, then becoming partly cloudy to mostly cloudy, highs in the lower 70s. And the outlook for Wednesday, a slight chance of showers with temperatures in the mid-70s. This is meteorologist Dr. Bill Williams for FM Talk 106.5.
With local coverage you can count on, I'm Peter Albrecht, WKRG News 5. Breaking developments in the search for a missing family from Mobile County. The FBI late this afternoon searched a wooded area near Bay Minette for someone they say is possibly linked to the disappearance. Deputies are also focusing on 2 properties in Mobile County, a house on Apache Run Drive and a mobile home park off of Old Pascagoula Road. 40-year-old Aurelia Chalk, her 17-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son were reported missing 10 days ago. Deputies found blood inside their house on Ben Hamilton Road in Theodore and say there were signs of a struggle. The Gulf Shore City Council will vote tomorrow on banning alcohol on beaches for the spring break period. It's been done every year since 2016. If enacted this year again, the ban would last from March 1st through April 28th. Mardi Gras tonight in downtown Mobile. The Order of Venus rolls at 6:30, followed by Miracle on the Bay, and then the Order of Many Faces. With local coverage you can count on, I'm Peter Albrecht, WKRG News 5.
Mobile was the first city to celebrate Mardi Gras, and the party is still going on. Whether you're a first-time visitor or a veteran parade goer, we want you to have fun but stay safe. Stay with your group. Designate a meeting spot in case you get separated. Hide valuables. Stay behind barricades. Drink responsibly or not at all. Plan your transport. Watch for heavy throws, especially with the kids around. See a video by Googling Mardi Gras safety tips.
Welcome back to Sweet Home CannaBama. Now with all the information you want about cannabis, here's your host, Jennifer Boozer.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sweet Home CannaBama every Monday night right here at 7 o'clock on FM Talk 106.5. Talking tonight with Martin Smith. We were just talking about Hempwood, and I was having a little fangirl moment there, and we were just getting real excited. I want to talk about some of the other industrial applications currently available in America because, hemp is being grown all over the world. Some places weren't growing it a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And what we've been doing in this country has, I'm sure, helped with innovation in other countries and other governments accept it for something that is good. We all know that it is good. So let's start with textiles and fabrics. I mean, like I said before, I've had many a hemp wallet, purse, backpack, t-shirt. I've had shoes, hats in my store, things like that. I've seen all kinds of things. I've seen a guitar body made from hemp, all sorts of things. So let's talk about that. I mean, rope and canvas. I mean, I read a long time ago when I was first learning all this stuff that the word canvas, it comes from the word cannabis because they used these fibers to make sails for these ships that would be, going from one continent to another, months at sea, salty air, hurricane force winds, all those things. And the ones that are made with hemp fiber were able to withstand all that and get them where they were going. And I always found that fascinating, ropes and things like that, and then there was Hemp for Victory. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, you think about the military effort of trying to maintain one of the things that people don't realize. I'm ex-Navy, by the way, so I can talk about naval things. You know how preachers say I can talk about preachers because I am one.
Right.
So, we can talk about the naval side of it because, they used to. I mean, when you think about it, how in the world did we travel all over the world? We had to have something that could get us there for mile for mile. It's like
right.
a car, they only go so far,
right.
and all of those things. And how much production can you get out? How much time does it take to make a sail? And how long does it last? Because that's what matters, right? And so you got to grow a crop to do it and to be able to manufacture those type of things. So people don't realize also that they use a lot of the seed that came out of here and went up to Nebraska and that area out of Kentucky. We grew the seed for the war efforts. People don't know.
Oh, wow.
A lot of history. One of the reasons why we have so much favorability with our legislature is because we have a deep history in it.
You never told me that part. That makes it make so much more sense for me that, besides the conversion from tobacco to hemp, but that makes so much more sense to me now.
Yeah, the seed came from here, and you think about, well, how come the seed came from Kentucky? Because our people who were colonized here, paid their taxes and you had to grow hemp in order to pay your taxes. Mm-hmm. So in order to pay your taxes, you had to have the best hemp to, per
right.
acre and we do that, right? Taxes make us do that today anyway, right? We got to get more yield out of our field because that's why I fight for the 1%, aspect because we get more, at least some more yield
right.
out of the field so that we can have, we get a better per point. When they buy our hemp from us on that side of the deal, they're buying it with how much CBD it has. You give us more CBD, we get more yield.
Right, right.
yeah, so all of that comes from the ability to manufacture something and make it last and long. And so when you come to that, World War II, they used to take and make big ropes like this kind of rope. I'm talking ropes that are
Right.
big, and they would line the bottom of ships with it in order to keep the mines. The mines had magnetism, and they would be able to go through these mines with the bottoms of their ships lined with this hemp.
Wow.
But all those seeds. So think about all of that, and think
Wow.
about all of the dungarees and the uniforms, and,
That's right.
and everything you could think of being made of this crop that created the ability to establish these United States.
Right. Well, and just for the listeners who maybe haven't heard about this, hemp was a massive crop in this country. The 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, bait and switch job, William Randolph Hearst and the DuPont brothers and all that, they didn't ban it. They didn't make it illegal, but they taxed it so high in 1937 that the farmers who were growing it had to abandon it as a crop because they couldn't feed their families anymore. And so it virtually disappeared. And then in World War II, they brought it back. And instead of Reefer Madness, we're now watching a movie called Hemp for Victory.
Right.
Where
100.
the U.S. military is now making uniforms and rope and every manner of things like what you just said to keep from magnetizing to mines. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, and then Woody Harrelson and Craig Lee do the documentary Hempsters. That I told you I'd come back and tell you. Hempsters, look that up. That's a documentary.
Hempsters, I got to write that down.
Think about the evolution. You got Reefer Madness, and then you got Hemp for Victory, and then you got Hempsters. It's
Right.
a new age effort to make this thing make sense.
Right.
It don't make sense if it's a part of our country's economic advancement over time throughout these ages, and we're sitting here thinking, well, why in the heck can't we just make it make sense today?
It's crazy because when you really look into the history in the late 1800s, 90% of medicine was somehow cannabis influenced or cannabis based until this taxation happened, and then it disappeared. Right around the time they happened to invent things like aspirin and medical school and all the things. We could go into all the conspiracy theories or factual stories, as I like to call them. But seriously, it was like, oh, it's the boogeyman. Your kids are gonna go insane and kill everybody, and your wife's going to sleep with every man in town, and the brown people might get you, and then 10 years later.
I would love for all your listeners to go back and look at Reefer Madness and then compare it to Hempsters.
Exactly.
See if we've learned anything, right? Have we learned anything?
Right. No. And so we went from everybody was comfortable with it. It grew in the ditches. You could pay your taxes with it. Some people were required. Some of the forefathers of this country were hemp farmers. The first version of the American flag that Betty Ross stitched together, made from hemp fiber, all the things. And then it was just wiped out. And then, oh, no, we're going to bring it back for a minute. But then, nope, can't have it again. And now, 80 years later, we're like, wait, what? The war on drugs? This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? And all of the things, So it's like going back in time in the late 1800s when there was no pharmaceutical industry and nobody went to medical school. You learned blacksmithing as an apprentice, but everyone had access to cannabis and nobody was scared of it. And then
Jennifer, look, we got the 21st century. We can learn anything we want to learn. We can make sense of anything we want to make sense
and people will still look you dead in the face and go, oh, I don't do drugs. About CBD.
I know the innovation, though. Just think about the innovation that's coming.
Oh, man.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Greg is a perfect example of the minor. He's in the minor space. It's in the floor. He's going to make flooring of it. He's going to take it, and he's got a process. You got to go see it. It's worth the stop by Greg's place. And Greg, I'm sorry if I'm sending unwanted traffic your way, but it's worth driving by and seeing the hemp bales outside ready to be going into his facility to process, and to see this machinery. I mean, this is big press machinery to make this product in a way that he's got a patent on it. He's the only person in the world that has a patent on this process that he has.
Wow.
You know, and so it's worth seeing where innovation from the past, rope that they were twisted to put underneath the ship hole in order to keep mines off of, in order to, to all the way now to making, what did you say that you had laid your hands on, actually put on Greg's product? What was it? A table or a table,
a conference table for volunteer botanicals. Yeah. And so, I even have a little sample. I can't even remember. I think I got it at an expo maybe, or somebody mailed it to me, but I even have a little piece of hempwood flooring. And man, don't let me get some money.
I need to get Greg to sign mine. I got one in. I got a keepsake drawer of all the stuff that I've collected over the years on doing this, hemp work that I've done, and I'm going to have to get him to sign mine.
I would have him sign an extra plank and hang it on the wall and frame it. Yes, that would be cool.
He's a pioneer.
Yes.
He's bringing the attention to innovation. Like, there's a market for this. We got to innovate it.
Right.
And I love that about Greg and what he's done at Hempwood.
Yeah. Well, and then it just, bleeds into the other construction materials. They use the hemp herds and fibers to make hempcrete, or, as I've been corrected, hemp lime construction material. Insulation. There is a company right here in Foley, Alabama, that sells hemp insulation as an alternative to whatever they use for insulation now. And
innovate, Jen. We want to farm it.
Right.
Innovate. Where are the Gregs of the world? That's what I want to know.
Fiberboard, instead of putting up regular sheetrock, fiberboard, biocomposites, all these things are lightweight, mold resistant, carbon sequestering, which is a big term. I mean, you talk about hempcrete.
We're the farmer. We're the lungs of that. So when we put that seed in the ground and it sequesters the carbon out of here, that's the U.S. farmer, or the farmer who works with nature to sequester carbon in that way and neutralize it in Greg's product, where you can walk on. I'm Jen, don't get me excited about the industry.
I know. Well, and I've done a lot of reading on the healthy, how much healthier it is if your home is made with hempcrete. It is like the air in the home is 30% cleaner without a filter at all, because the house is a filter. It's a breathing, porous thing. It's mold, mildew, pest resistant, and I've posted many videos, if you follow me, where they have heated up this hemp till one side is glowing red and just a few inches on the other side of it is cool, and they'll sit it there for hours and hours. It never combusts. It never breaks down. It's incredible. And in a place like where we live, where we have hurricanes and tornadoes, it's wind resistant. I mean, you really can't, there's no argument against building a house out of hempcrete. None.
Well, let me say this. I live in the Ohio Valley, right? So we're known for having bad air quality. What if your house, what you live in, could make the difference in your quality of life?
Right. All the children with asthma and allergies. Yes. Your home would be so much healthier for you. Yeah. And so, I mean, again, green building. And now, our friend Scott McStacy up in Virginia has made a huge headway with hempcrete as an official building material that's approved by the state. I know they've gotten it into these construction manuals of allowed construction materials. Yeah, so it's very exciting.
That's the pioneers. That's what I'm talking about. Where are those pioneers who see being first in those innovative spaces?
Right.
Because wherever they are is where the industry is. If you're one of those people, I'm interested in who you are.
That's right. Let's go. When we come back from the break, we're going to finish up with Martin Smith. Stay with us.
We didn't know what to expect. We were just left in a hotel.
My mom was doing drugs in the house.
Tay and Brianna spent years of their childhood in homes that weren't safe. They were placed in foster care and longed for a permanent, loving home.
I didn't know what my future was.
I wouldn't speak to anyone. I was afraid of everything.
With help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption, Brianna and Tay were adopted and now feel excited about their futures.
I'm studying to be a chef, and I really want to travel the world.
I'm going to be a mechanic, and I can focus on my career.
Right now, in the United States, there are more than 100,000 children in foster care, just like Brianna and Tay, who need a family now. Learn how you can help at davethomasfoundation.org.
This is Daryl from Columbus, previously from the Paul Feinbaum Show.
So let's check in with Chris in South Carolina.
So you mean to tell me, Paul, we're supposed to believe that the Big Ten is the best conference in football? Ohio State bought one. Michigan cheated their way to one. So we're supposed to think that Big Ten is better than everybody else? I don't think so, Paul. But we need the SEC to get back on their horses, man, and take this thing back over. Like, next year's ours. You might as well put that in the book, Paul.
The Paul Feinbaum Show, weekdays at 2 on FM Talk 106.5.
Welcome back to Sweet Home CannaBama. Now with all the information you want about cannabis, here's your host, Jennifer Boozer.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sweet Home CannaBama. We're talking with Martin Smith tonight about industrial hemp applications. We've been discussing hempwood, construction materials, fiber materials, all sorts of fun things. One thing that not a lot of people talk about, and I don't know of anybody who's currently actively doing this, but bioplastics and sustainable packaging. I know that there's a limited amount of stuff out there. I know you can get like plastic forks and knives, things like that, made from hemp. And I know that I've read that if you had a bottle of water that was made from hemp plastic, you toss it out the window, instead of ending up in a landfill for 100,000 years, it biodegrades wherever it is, and within 60 days, you know, and then it makes the soil it fell apart in better for it. You know, and then there's biodiesel. We all know, you know, Henry Ford made a car that was made partially with hemp fiber and ran on biodiesel. And I think that if we knew in 1940 that we could grow an acre or two of a crop in 120 days and make sustainable, clean energy for vehicles instead of just poking holes in the planet until there's nothing left and then fighting wars over it. I mean, and none of that makes sense to me. But there's so many other things. I don't want to run out of time because I'm trying to get to the point of the fact that this is all tied together with consumables as of now.
Right.
And the rules that apply for consumables, such as the 0.3% THC limit or let's burn your crops, when you're talking about varieties that maybe don't even flower before you harvest them. So how do you test those? You know, all the things that would hinder an industrial farmer who's growing technically a hemp plant of the same family of the ones making consumables, but it's, you know, different varieties that are grown for fiber. The ones for fiber, don't they get up to like 20 feet?
So let me say, Jennifer, this is the easiest solution to all things agriculture. If the crop is grown on a 7-inch row and it's 3 inches apart, you are not growing it for anything other than its industrial purposes.
Right.
Period. So if you're driving down the road, you don't have to have any kind of formal education on this. If you see a crop that's 15 foot tall and grown, you know, so dense you can't see sunlight through it,
right,
you know it's an industrial crop. You don't need to test it. You don't need to bother the farmer or the contract that he's servicing or anything, because the product is going to go in. It's going to be ecologically sound. You think that farmer wants to put a crop on his farm where he's going to cause damage to himself or any of the neighbors? So he ain't going to let that thing bloom. You know how many seeds that crop would make on an industrial hemp farm if you were to let him flower? So he ain't. First of all, he don't want that on his farm.
Mm-hmm.
He don't want the scrutiny that comes with this 0.3 threshold and all this other he's not looking to
Right.
be in the market space with the industrial or with medical medicinal side of it, or medical side, whatever you want to say it.
Right.
And the third thing is anybody and their mother and grandmother, and maybe even their great grandmother, depending on their eyesight, can tell that that's not a crop for anything other than making textiles, paper, because the density of the plant.
I can attest to that because I have been on a farm that the plants were 20, almost 15, almost 20 feet tall, and I've also been on a hemp farm where the plants were 6 feet apart and 5 feet around and maybe 6 feet tall. And they had cola nugs that were, some of them were over an ounce a piece of flower material. That is clearly a different plant, and since cannabis is technically in the rose family.
Can we just give these guys a break?
Right. Yeah.
A visual break. And if you plant it on a 7-inch row and 3 inches on intervals, this is not anything we're going to be bothering you with.
Right.
Go on, carry on. Let Greg and Hempwood and everybody else expand in their market space, knowing that if their supply chain comes from a 7-inch row with 3.5 inch intervals, that there ain't never going to be able to be a crop come out of that that's going to get anybody high.
Right. Or get anybody anything other than a nice new house or a table or some flooring, a backpack and a hat to match. But yes, it's ridiculous because I know from the consumable side, the cost of testing is one thing. The backlog of testing, because there's not enough labs that are good enough, DEA certified labs that are, not going to pay to play. There are not enough labs to go around. So there's a time gap there that would slow down whatever they're trying to accomplish. And, not being able to get crop insurance because they're worried about the THC content when all you're trying to do is make a dang conference table. It's really ridiculous. It is.
It don't make sense to not let them guys go.
Exactly.
Get out of here. If you plant it on a 7-inch row and you got it on a 3-inch interval and you take it out before it flowers, you are an agricultural crop. You are not anything in the medicinal lane. If we can drive by and recognize it, there used to be a day whenever you couldn't grow any crop that looked like, because some canaf species has a palmated leaf, which looks like marijuana if you grow it. Well, they wouldn't allow, one of the reasons why we did all the research we did to change the leaf structure is because they wouldn't allow you to grow anything with a palmated leaf that you couldn't identify at 500 feet for the eradication teams. And so look, here's the thing about it. You're not gonna, at 500 feet, at 500 feet, you're going to notice a plant 5 foot, 7 foot wide and 6 foot tall with big ass cola.
Right. No, that's exactly right. Even from that distance, because when I saw those plants that were, the first time I saw them, they were like 10 or 11 feet. And then a few weeks later, I went back and they were way taller. One of my favorite photos of myself that I got to take was with a leaf that was bigger than my face. It was huge.
Yeah.
In a greenhouse in Alabama, and that picture still blows people's minds. But yeah, and I don't know if they still do this, but I know over the consumable hemp for sure, the DEA helicopters every 30 minutes. What a waste of everything. Manpower, helicopter wear and tear, the fuel. I mean, what are people going to do in the span of 30 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know. This is the thing about it all, though. We're getting past it.
Yeah.
That's the great thing, Jennifer. The work that we've been doing to establish the stability necessary to make this a viable crop is what we're really talking about here.
Right.
As funny as it has been, like Woody planting 4 seeds and saying, call the law, I'm right here. I got 4 seeds I want to plant from. And, the ridiculousness of it all. But the fact of the matter is we responsibly are, we got to look at it and say, okay, if a kid in middle school can get a hold of it and get his whole class, intoxicated, then we need to do something about that.
Right.
But industrial wise, let's let these guys go, man.
Well,
I'm
either
telling you,
way, it's a very serious matter because we're talking about sustainability and eco-friendly carbon sequestration. You know, if you're an environmentalist who doesn't care whether or not people have the right to use cannabis, but you're an environmentalist or someone who is worried about climate change or all the things that people get into when you talk about carbon and things like that, carbon footprint and saving the planet. I mean, who that cares one bit about the planet would not be a huge super fan of the hemp plant, you know, and we need that support, you know, but it's also very serious because on the flip side of that is real people who need real medicine. And one of the most beautiful things for me, especially after everything that has changed for me in the last year, being part of this industry, it gives me a lot of hope to be able to do this, to not only create a medical grade standard for consumables and provide the highest quality medicine that you could make, but also to set the industrial side free and let it innovate, let them make all the things and do all the things, see what they can get into and cut out that massive amount of headache, money, setbacks, and risk that of being linked in with the consumable market. And I think that's why the medical hemp legislation that is filed in Kentucky, that we're trying to get filed here and in several other states, and even get into the farm bill, hopefully, it's so important because we need to set these guys free to go and innovate, and we need to right some wrongs in the consumable industry. And I'm really, really excited. And thank you for letting me be a part of that.
Well, Jennifer, I appreciate you and all the work you have done over the years to maintain your perspective.
Thank you so much, Martin. We're out of time for tonight. Thank you so much. And we'll be back next week. Who knows? God bless you. And God bless American Medical Hemp.